Good morning. It's great to follow on from John because what's quite scary is a lot of the things that John talks about you'll see appears in my presentation, but I suppose that is why this conference is called Like Minds, because we definitely share a lot of the same kind of outlooks and perspectives. So my name is Rajeeb Dey and I run a company called Internships. And before I get going, who's using Twitter here? Who's using Twitter? Great. So if you want to tweet, I'm at Raj Dey or at Internships. And I will just ask the same question that John asked because I'm quite keen to get an understanding of who's really in the room. So could you just put your hand up if you are an entrepreneur? Okay, so a large proportion of you are entrepreneurs. Who here works for another company? Okay, great. Who's a student? Good, very good. And who's none of the above? Who doesn't really fit? Excellent. Could I ask, what do you do? I won't put you on the spot, actually, that's mean, sorry. But I suppose I'll tell you a bit about who I am. So I'm actually 26, so you've aged me by a year already. I feel offended. But I graduated in 2008 into the midst of the graduate unemployment crisis. So Lehman Brothers came crashing down in 2008. Great time to graduate. And I, whilst at university, used to run the Entrepreneur Society. It was called Oxford Entrepreneurs. It's one of the largest networks of student entrepreneurs in Europe. And I was faced with a really interesting situation because I was in a fortunate position to have job offers both within banking and management consultancy. But I decided to do something which a lot of my friends thought was a bit stupid, which was decline those offers and decide to set up my own business and be an entrepreneur. And that's why I set up Internships. And Internships really is a platform to connect students and graduates to the world of startups and SMEs. What I felt on campus was that startups and small businesses don't have the same brands of the large blue chip corporates to come on campus and recruit directly through the milk round. So whilst everyone might know the big law firms, the big accountancy firms, no one's really going to know the awesome startup that might be based in the science park, which might just be down the road, because they don't have the same brand or the HR departments to really come on campus and engage with the students. And at the same time, I felt that whilst aspiring bankers, lawyers, and accountants all did internships, what was there for an aspiring entrepreneur to do? And so rather than, you could obviously go set up your own business, but if you're not quite ready to make that step, I felt that the best way to learn about enterprise, sorry, I'm going to take that right. The best way to learn about business rather than setting up your own company is to be in a startup or a small company where you can learn about the challenges but also the excitement of being in that really dynamic and entrepreneurial environment. And so decided to create a new word, an internship. And the idea really is to create a culture change where working in a startup or a small company has the same kudos, if not more, than working in a big blue chip bank. So I just wanted to quickly get a sense of how many people here are thinking to themselves that I would like to set up a business at some point. The ones that are not currently an entrepreneur. Okay, good few of you. A study that was undertaken a couple of years ago during Global Entrepreneurship Week showed that over 50% of people do actually at some point want to start a business, but only 5.8% actually do anything about it. And at a time like this, when we've got high levels of youth and unemployment in general, I think it's essential that we inspire more people to look at entrepreneurship as a career path. And but I think one of the problems that we have is this whole issue of analysis paralysis. And I think that a lot of people who might be in jobs already or might start thinking about doing their business plans and just weigh up all the reasons why things could go wrong. And I think this is something to do with the kind of culture that we're in and the education system, which kind of forces us to think in kind of structures and to be kind of quite risk averse in many respects, because we don't really celebrate failure, we frown upon failure, and we stigmatize it. And I think this is something that I'm really keen to challenge and really to get, especially young people, to see that actually, in a time like this, starting up your own business is actually a viable and rewarding option. I actually think that the whole concept of entrepreneurs, they're kind of misunderstood. If you go to a dinner party and you're sitting around a table and you have the inevitable question, so what do you do? And there'll be a doctor, there'll be a lawyer, there'll be an accountant, and they'll come around to me, and then I'll say, I'm an entrepreneur. and they get a really kind of a glazed expression, and they kind of feel a sense of pity, and they kind of think, oh, okay, didn't you get a proper job? And that's something that I'm really keen to challenge as well. I think we need to celebrate entrepreneurs, and ultimately, as the source of wealth and job creation in the economy, we need to show people that actually it is a viable, exciting career path. And Ted Turner kind of sums up this sentiment, who says that my son is now an entrepreneur, and that's what you're called when you don't have a job. And sadly, a lot of people still do believe in this, but I think, and you've heard about Dan Pink before, but for me, it's so much more than about the money of being an entrepreneur. It's that kind of freedom, that ability to kind of do your own thing and really make a difference that enterprise really gives you. It gives you that freedom to kind of take a vision and make something happen. And if there was a study that was undertaken in Harvard, which looks at the kind of nature of work and how Gen Y in particular, when they're choosing where to go and work, they're looking for meaningful work where it's not just a job. They need a sense of purpose. And so when even the entrepreneurs in the room are thinking about how to attract young people, think about how you can give them that sense of autonomy, that sense of real purpose in what they're doing. Because ultimately, the attitudes of the young people entering the job markets are changing rapidly. But I think the good thing is that there is a tremendous amount of hope. There's a lot of exciting initiatives that are out there right now. So I thought I'd just as quickly kind of run through a few of these with you. So there's an initiative called the New Entrepreneurs Foundation, which is taking kind of young career changers who might have traditionally been in city life to go work for fast-growing SMEs. Startup Britain, which I'll talk about, is a national campaign that I co-founded along with 7 other entrepreneurs, launched by the Prime Minister last year. And it's really to create a national campaign to celebrate and accelerate entrepreneurship in Britain. So on startupbritain.org, it provides a marketplace for people to find out about the resources and the support that's out there, because there is a lot of stuff out there to support you on your entrepreneurial journey, but it can be quite daunting to kind of find that. So through Startup Britain, we're really there to showcase the amount of support, both from fellow entrepreneurs, but also from the corporates. So we have over 60 corporate partners that are looking at giving entrepreneur support. There's NACU, which is the National Association of College and University Entrepreneurs. They work with students in colleges and universities through student enterprise societies to really develop more of an entrepreneurial mindset. So just as I mentioned, I used to run the Entrepreneur Society at Oxford, and that really gave me the sense of that kind of experience and exposure to enterprise early on, because running the Enterprise Society was very much like running my own business. I had a committee of 18 people. We had a budget of over £100,000 to manage, and this was money that I had to go out and find through corporate sponsorship so that we could make our events free. So I think it's really exciting that we're seeing more colleges and universities having these kind of societies, because it's important that we develop these entrepreneurial skills in young people whilst they're still studying. There's another new initiative called Entrepreneur First, and it's effectively like, who's heard of Teach First? Has anyone heard of Teach First? A few of you. So it's a scheme that helps graduates enter the world of entrepreneurship through a more structured program. And it's just kicked off this year, and I think it's a really fantastic initiative. I was delighted to be part of the judging panel of that. And one of the initiatives that we've just kicked off is called Startup Milk Grounds. And these are basically 20 events happening around the country where we're getting young people to interact directly with the local business community. I think all too often we're kind of in silos when you're at university, so you might just be exposed to local businesses, but if you study in Exeter but you live in Manchester, when you go back home there might not be anything for you to do. So what we're trying to do through the internships platform and also through the Startup Milk Rounds is really get exposure to small businesses all around the country so that you can develop more of that entrepreneurial kind of experience. So Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn talks about entrepreneurship as jumping off a cliff and assembling the plane on the way down. And I think that is very much, it's been my kind of experience, where you kind of figure things out as you go along and you make lots of mistakes. And in all honesty, it is a daunting kind of experience, but at the same time, massively rewarding. So I suppose I could end by really asking you the question that how many of you are really ready to jump? Thank you very much.
Rajeeb, thank you very much for that discussion on entrepreneurships and internships. I was going to ask you that question, actually, because for many people here, those people who put their hands up and said that they would like to be an entrepreneur, how do you get started? And then you come up with this Reid Hoffman quote that says it's like, jumping off a cliff and assembling a plane. That's scary for a lot of people. So how do you find the motivation? How do you find the inspiration? What are the steps that you can take to, take those first steps in becoming an entrepreneur and building something that you have a belief in?
I think one of the key things is that you have to be comfortable with uncertainty, and that you're not necessarily going to have all the answers from day one. And as an entrepreneur, you just have to learn as you go along. But it's a mindset, I think, more than anything. So it's not necessarily something you can teach. Yes, you can do a course and you can do an MBA, but I think ultimately, until you've actually done it and you've thrown yourself out there and experiencing it, it's very hard to kind of know what it's going to be like. But the key is that you have to be comfortable with uncertainty and comfortable with failure as well, because things are not always going to go right, and they're not going to go the way you want it to go. So I think, and that's a big cultural issue that we've got here in the UK, where, as I said, we do frown upon failure. So we need to be encouraging people as young as possible to actually experience failure and actually say it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yes, that certainly does seem to be the case, that when you talk to perhaps entrepreneurs from the US, they're not as afraid of failure in what they're doing. In fact, some people see it very much as a business asset if you have had a failure, because you have then the knowledge and the insight of what it means to fail, so you don't make the same mistakes again. Is this something that you through internships can help to educate and encourage people who want to become entrepreneurs of the future with?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, the premise of internships is really to get them exposed to startup life, and startup life is very chaotic, and you kind of put your hand to a whole range of activities, and you're not necessarily just pigeonholed to doing one particular thing. And I think it's understanding what it's like to be an entrepreneur, to shadow an entrepreneur. That's what we're trying to do with internships, is really give you that kind of exposure that you don't normally get, and that the education system doesn't really equip you for right now.
So how can people get started with internships? Is it go to the website,
yep.
or is
so
it
if you're a student,
card, or
yep. If you're a student, then you can just go on internships.com and then apply for any of the roles. So we work with over 4,000 businesses, really exciting companies, including some kind of celebrity internships. We've got one right now with James Caan, Dragon's Den. We've had Lily Allen's taken on people for her fashion business, and Peter Jones. So there's some really awesome opportunities on the site. And if you're a business, then you can just go up on the site and set up a profile and start taking on some interns, because also what you're doing is it's effectively a try before you buy system, because you can see if there's a fit, and then you've saved massively on kind of any recruitment fees, because in most cases we find that the young people make themselves indispensable and create their own jobs.
So is it more a case of finding people the right positions or the right companies that they can go and join to be entrepreneurial in, or is it about, hey, you've got a great business idea, let's support that and let's help you grow that business idea?
It's more about, with internships, it's more about giving you that experience in a startup or a small company, to kind of, so that you're then equipped with the skills to then set up your own business, or frankly to kind of know that actually I want to work in this small company for a few years to kind of develop my skill set and get that kind of confidence that I need to set up my own company. With Startup Britain, however, is for people that have a business idea, they want to make something happen, they can go on the website and kind of use all the resources and tools that are out there. And then we have startup local champions, so that most cities in the UK has a local champion that really helps connect the local business community.
Okay, well, fantastic. Well, I think it's a wonderful enterprise to have built, and to be helping to spread the entrepreneurial love around the UK. So, Rajeeb, thank you very much for coming to talk to us.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 26-year-old Rajeeb Dey.
Cheers.